And so in that work, there was something that sustained me that day. It was my dream of my girls. And everything I'm saying to you, I have people that are evidence of different parts of my life. So this is not they invited somebody to come and speak and they're making the story look good. That day I went on a walk. I had walked such a long distance, but what sustained me was what I was thinking on that walk. And so in my head, I had this idea how my daughter calls me and said they flew into Kenya. They want to fly into Kenya to go and do an outreach. And they're asking me if they could fly with one of our family private jets. And that private jet, the name on that private jet is John 3:16. And so my daughter is negotiating. We want to go here and then go to this country and then go to that country and then go to that country. And I'm like, okay. So I'm coming into Nigeria at this time. This is my idea of, I have 2 daughters. I'm having this thought. My first child is 9 years old. I don't know what their gifts and talents are just yet, that you would say I'm seeing it and I'm seeing manifestation. In fact, I don't have a mold of what their greatness will look like. I just know that they will live out everything God designed for them to be, because God said things to me about those children that gives me the conviction every time I look at a girl. I know that, this one is loaded. The world just does not know how to interpret what God has put in a woman. And so sometimes to contain her, they just say, okay, be married, have ambition, but not too far. So the first step for me is, child of God, what is your idea of what God designed for your daughter to be able to make out of their lives? What is your idea? What do you think God was thinking when he formed Carissa, Amara, Adana? When God formed them, what do you think was his idea? Because we are their parents, we limit God in how we perceive what they are here on earth to do. Number 2, let me imagine that you have this big idea of what your daughters can become. If you notice, there's no mold, there's no doctor, there's no nurse, there's just greatness. In whatever form God has decided to express in themselves, that's what I'm there for. So let's say you've cracked that code. You know that your children are born for greatness. And I mean all children, regardless of where they are right now. All of them, regardless of their academic performances, regardless of their state of health, regardless of anything. So let's say you've cracked that one. Let's go to the next step. The next step will be, what would it take to raise that girl into the fullness that God has designed for them to be? You know, one of the most interesting scriptures in the Bible is I think is in Matthew, where it says, who wants to build a house must count the cost. You must take into account. And you know, I used to think that God didn't care what people think. God cares what people think. He said, lest you start and you cannot finish, and people laugh at you that, see, this one started and couldn't complete it. So for me as a mother, I had to sit down and ask myself that, what will it take for me to have girls who live out the fullness? And one of the first things that hit me, which is not even in my notes, was that Irene Bangwell, needed to live out the fullness that God designed for me to be. And you know what that would mean? I tell people all the time, one of the things that women are struggling with today, especially working moms, is that many of our mothers didn't do the kind of work that we do, right? They were teachers, they closed early from work. So we are the ones heading corporations. We're leading big teams, we're having virtual meetings, we're working remotely. So most of us have never had parenting and career modeled to us as a combo. So we struggle. Some of us feel that it is either or. We struggle a lot. For instance, my daughter wrote me a note on Sunday night, a stinker. And the stinker was based on making time. And I looked at the note and I wrote her another note. Walked her through the decisions I had to make, because I want to raise girls who are emotionally stable, meaning they can express their views, they are open to other people's perspectives, so that they make the right judgment calls. I don't want them to shrink, but I don't want to talk about that yet. It's later in my note where we're talking about their emotional development. But one of the things I told my daughter, she's 10 now, was that, baby girl, no one modeled to me how to work and be a great mom. But I'm going to get it right so that you can get the blueprint. So when I struggle, it's okay for you to give me feedback. I will take it and I'll work on it. That's why when I had to be here today, I made sure that I was in her school early to pick her up so they don't wait for me long, so that I could drop them and then tell them, Mommy is away. And I wanted to do this live call away from home because each time I come back home and they want to spend time, I say I'm going live again. It's a trigger for them. It makes them feel like, oh, you're serving the world and you're not making time. So you know what? So what I want to now be doing is I want to do all them live things in the office and come back like a saint. Like I ain't done nothing, right? I'm back home for you guys. So what made me bring this thought was saying that I need to achieve the balance myself. So I run a non-profit school, 100 naira a day school, where we're fundraising, we're pitching. But in the process of building that non-profit, something happened to me. I lost every sense of inhibition. You know how you second guess yourself, the low self-esteem, the I'm not good enough. I've shedded off all of that because I need to become that wholesome mom so that I'm not over my children telling them, don't do this so that people don't say, dress like this so that people don't say. I need to deal with it myself so that I create the right climate for the seed that I'm sowing inside of them to yield. So let's say you've gotten the idea of the girl you want to raise. You now understand that, oh, there are certain things I need to put in place to raise this child. It brings me to the next point, which is, now that you've decided that you want to raise a phenomenal girl, imagine that this is actually a seed you want to plant. If you buy a plant, there's going to be weed. So what are the weeds in your environment that are going to try to choke what it is you're trying to teach your daughters? I want to walk you through some of those weeds and then we're going to deal with them. You know, the Bible says something profound in Matthew 13:25. He said, while men slept, the enemy came and sowed tares. What it means is that they sowed the seed. They did sow the seed. They cleared the farmland, they sowed the seed. Then they went to sleep. Then the enemy had the opportunity. So today, I want us to look at 3 kinds of seed that can choke the life out of that girl you're trying to raise. And at the end, I'll define what body smart girl is. So sis, you remind me at the end to end this session with just saying what a body smart girl is. So the very first thing you're going to have to deal with in Africa is cultural stereotypes. So you want to raise this phenomenal girl that wants to do great things. And you're teaching your kids to be vocal, to ask questions. And say your mother thinks that, don't do that so they won't see husband to marry. And you say, Mommy, don't say that. And you say, Mommy, don't say that. Mommy, don't say that. Then you go away. While you're saying, Mommy, don't say that, your daughter heard it. The seed has been planted. Because it's not in what you say, but it's in what you can get them. It's what you can get them to say after they've heard junk like that. So let's say your mother actually said it during the holiday and say, you dey here, they push her, may she go do coding, may she go do this, she go do public speaking, man go green Mariam. And I say, Mom, you don't talk like that, you waka come out. You don't go talk like that. You go call your pikin, say, yeah, what do you think about grandma, what grandma said? And in the process, you say, but Mommy, what do you think about what grandma said? And then she brings it up. And then you start to uproot that first. You have to tell her it doesn't work like that. So people don't get married by limiting themselves. You start telling them that God designed you for a purpose, and your mate will only recognize you when you're in the fullness of that purpose. Anybody you meet when you're outside of that purpose doesn't know who you are. They can't really love you. So the person that would love you as God wants you to be loved has to find you in the fullness of what he designed you to be. So that's why you cannot be stranded. The Bible says none shall lack her mate. So I'm raising you to be everything that God designed for you to be, so that when the right mate sees you, they can recognize that you're the one. Now, that conversation you have with your child is the process of uprooting the tares. The one that you're telling your mother is the gist that you're telling your farmer neighbor that tares are growing in your wheat, in your farm. It doesn't change jack. It's the conversation that you have with your daughters that matter. Your daughters are growing up in an era where I want to assume that all the people talking to me are mothers who are raising girls and have boys who do chores and their sons wash plate. I mean, I want to believe that everybody that is on this live call knows that boys and girls do chores equally and that cooking is a survival skill. At least during COVID, many bachelors knew the value of learning how to cook. So I won't go there today, but I'm talking about limiting beliefs like saying it doesn't matter what a woman does. If a man doesn't like her, she's zero. I can't raise my daughters with that perspective. And it's not what I'm saying when I'm on IG Live. It's the conversations I'm having at home with them. So what cultural stereotypes are around you? Some people say they don't recognize cultural stereotypes. So I'm going to ask you, dear mom, what was your dream as a child? What were the thoughts that you had that made you decide to settle? You don't understand what cultural stereotypes are. Just relax. Go on Instagram, on handles that are like communities and they talk about women issues. Go and sleep there. You will see the cultural stereotypes in front of women. I mean, I read a post about a woman whose mother-in-law sends her clothes to wash. Not for a dry cleaner, not in a washing machine, for her to hand wash. Eh. And so she was asking for advice. So I asked her, I said, babe, did you tell them that your passion was washing? Because part of the cultural stereotypes women have to deal with is that we would say anything just so that he would marry you, so that he would see why you were the better one. You always feel like a man is shopping and picking you is a privilege. He chose you over his ex, so you feel like you won a of everything that God designed for her to be. It has purpose in it, but it also has physical awareness. You know, God, I don't want to say God plays a trick on us, but sometimes God gives you the illusion to think that you had a bright idea, but you didn't. It was his idea in the whole time. He just knows how to stay at the background. When God started leading me to talk to girls about sex and sex education and puberty and how their lives are evolving, I didn't get it. I thought it was going to be period and stuff. And God told me, no, it's the whole 9 yards. Who a girl is when puberty hits is directly connected to the value she saw in a woman from when she was growing up. You get that? Where she's saying, he may go and find a girl that is better than I am. It means that she can get in a position where she will do anything to keep his attention for fear that he will leave her. So by the time puberty sets in, that's what eventually determines her decisions. You get the idea? That's why I tell parents that there's no sex education without God. Some people say, well, talk to kids about self-esteem. Self-esteem, Kimmy. Well, on your worst day like this, you don't even know what it means. On your worst day, you don't know what it means. That's why when a child is grounded on the idea that they're a product of God, even on their worst day, there's more security in knowing that I was a God idea than I'm talented, I'm strong, women can make it, women can do this. Omo, do you know how many strong women we see online who are broken when you meet them in person? Because the struggle is real. And so, I was telling a friend the other day, I was telling my husband the other day, I said, God played a fast one on us. When we all started hearing about finding purpose, people thought that when you find purpose, you'll be fulfilled. Say lie. You will find purpose and still be empty. They say when you marry the right partner, you will marry the right partner and still be empty. Only one person makes up for that vacuum, and that's fellowship with Christ. It's only Christ. No, if I like that, let me give 1 million poor children education in Africa. The vacuum will still be there. When you have fellowship with God, you're a totally different person. The achievements don't make you. No numbers make you. You're solid. And that's one of the things I want to give my girls. I want my girls to show up at work and not compete with nobody.